So all these texture maps that we're getting with this one texture bundle is going to be, a pretty standard workflow amongst all PBR shading. I'm going to break this down to what's common and things that you work with most of the time, things that you work with sometimes. I would say base color, metallic, and roughness. Those are the three primary maps. Basically, I would say base color is the most important, roughness comes second, and then metallic comes third if it's a metallic shader. Basically, all of your shaders should have some sort of roughness, some sort of base color. And then if it's metallic, it'll have a metallic as well. Normal map comes in a close second to all of those. We'll get into normal mapping. Normal mapping, bump mapping is also another way to do it, which we'll get into. Height, this is going to be for displacement, which we'll get into. And occlusion, which is really just enhancing the details of our base color map. So we're going to take a look at how to assemble all of these now. So I'm going to finish off by just dragging the rest of these into our scene. I'll just drag and drop just like this. So we have occlusion, base color, height, metallic, and normal. So with these, we can just go ahead and set these up with the right color spaces as we talked about last chapter. The color space for normal is going to be non-color. And then we can go ahead and just close this whenever we're done with it. We can go ahead and close the roughness as well. Metallic, this is going to be non-color as well. We'll go ahead and close this. Height, this, we're not actually going to need this now. We're going to use that with displacement. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Base color, we're going to stick with sRGB because it's going to go into the color slot here. And then ambient occlusion, we'll switch this over to non-color as well. We'll go ahead and collapse all of these. So to plug these in, the only thing that we have to do is we'll simply, the way I like to do this, especially when you're first starting, is just go ahead and assemble these one by one, just to make sure they work. So base color, and then we have metallic going into the metallic channel. But then we have roughness going into roughness. And then normal, we can't plug it directly in there. We're going to need to do a Shift A and then search for normal. We'll do normal map. And then we'll go into color, and then normal into normal. And then from here, if we want to start using the occlusion is really kind of optional. What we can do is search for mix RGB, and we'll go ahead and mix these two things together. It doesn't matter which one goes in which color. And then we'll simply set this to multiply. And what that's going to do is just enhance those details along the edges. And that's basically that. We have one more thing to do with our displacement. So we'll go ahead and set that up right now. We'll go over to our modifiers here. We'll go to displace. We'll add a displace. We'll go to new texture. And then essentially what happens here is we've now created a new texture. And this is a little bit confusing because we're working with a texture in terms of the Blender file itself, not within the material itself. So this is another layer up. So if we pull our texture drop down here, we won't see any textures that we're creating here. So it's a little confusing. So I'm just going to call this displacement. We'll go to our texture properties, hit open. I'll go ahead and navigate to Starter Kit, Metals, and then we'll choose displacement, or we'll choose height. And there we go. We want to make sure our color space is going to be non-color as well. And then we'll go over to our settings here and we'll just see what this looks like before and after. That's all looking good. Mid-level here is going to be 0.5. If you're working with like a linear EXR, that's going to be a value of 0. But for this one specifically, the default settings are going to work good. If we want to go up and down on the displacement, so this is a value of 0, and then we can go up from there. For this one, I'm just going to do 0.5, just kind of break it up a little bit. And there we go. That's the final network. And there we go. One more thing that we can do here, if we want to actually start tiling this, is we can set up our mapping. So I'll do Shift A and do search for mapping. I'll go ahead and do Shift A and search for UV. I'll go ahead and plug that into vector and then plug that into all of our different textures here. And now what we can do is simply just go up and down on this. So if we want to tile this more, we can do that. Technically, our displacement is now needing to be tiled as well. So we want to set these settings to be whatever we set our settings here. And there we go. So next, what I would encourage you guys to do is just to come on to 3dtextures.me and really, just go through here and play around. Try to find some PBR style textures. The ones that are going to have the little substance icon on there is going to have the PBR style workflow. We'll get into ones that don't have the PBR style workflow in a bit. But you can get really, really far just by working with these library textures, which is really great.